terror. And the danger is that they'll blow back in all kinds of bad ways and increase the level of hatred and radicalization. There's no such thing as a finite number that we've got to get, and then once that's over, people have this in their head. But that's not true, because if for every one militant that they bomb, if we were here, well, what? 50 people around there are now mad as hell because you've bombed their buildings, killed kids. As soon as the women that got killed in Afghanistan, this was aerial bombing, but they killed 10 women and a 10-year-old. Well, they brought their bodies, and people are enraged. How do you think you can win? How can you win hearts and minds and pacify a people if you're using these tactics and techniques? It's got to be political, and if we want to be humanitarian, that's just great, but we can't be using deadly force, having assassination kill us.
What about the increasing domestic use of these? What are some things you think people should bear in mind with that? I mean, as more law enforcement agencies are starting
Well, the chiefs of police passed this last week. Again, conservative group. You should read their opinion on it.
This is Minnesota?
No, national.
Okay.
National. A week ago, they passed a resolution to resist arming drones. And already, I think, a few thousand police departments are either getting drones or on a list to get drones. And of course, I agree, search and rescue would be appropriate. So if you had a child lost in a cornfield, it would be a very appropriate use for a public safety purpose. And under this old case of 1990s of using drones looking into an expectation of privacy, that would possibly be appropriate too. But beyond that, again, you're in the same problems, uncharted territory.
Right.
And I would very much, I'm almost would say I'm 90% correct that in this environment of top secret America gathering all this information, 1.6 billion pieces of data on Americans, who's going to honor those old lines, those old legal lines about getting warrants? When they can look out at the National Security Administration and say, well, they don't get warrants.
Right.
Why should we have to get warrants? And so I think the police chiefs were worried about. They're worried that there should be restrictions on these things. And there's a second reason. They've given 30,000, I believe, airspace permits for drones, and a couple of drones have already crashed. One crashed off of Maryland. Well, if pilotless drones start crashing in populated areas, if they start hitting planes, the New York plane that had to land in the Hudson River because they hit a goose, can you imagine all these little 30,000 of these things flying around with real airliners? Mm-hmm. So it's got a public safety. There's a lot of safety issues. And they can be small, they can be large.
Their crash rate is much higher.
Here's one more issue, and I heard this from a former military J. Again, our military, some of them who know the laws on this are some of the most concerned. His major concern was, two entities right now are using drones. One is the Pentagon. He's more supportive of the Pentagon because he knows that law of jus in bello, and he went through what he knew and how he used to consult about you can't bomb that bridge because people live below it. So he's more He's more confident of the Pentagon being able to use the drones. Guess who else is using the drones? That has no law applied to them at all. No oversight, no law. All super special secret agents. It's the same group that have the indictment or the conviction now in Italy, the CIA. The CIA's operation of drones. Problem with that is they don't have any oversight at all. They're supposed to have an internal oversight, the Inspector General. They force their own Inspector General out.
Where's the CIA using them then?
They're Pakistan. And they're the kill list. Yeah. So that actually is a military concern that the CIA has absolutely no guidance what they're doing. They're not even operating by the proportionality and the same things that the Pentagon.
But it's the military that's carrying out these drones.
No, CIA. Okay. They use the Pentagon. The Pentagon made the drones, but it's the CIA people who are pressing the buttons. Yep. And because they're in a foreign country, there's no laws that apply to them. This was always the case. That's why a CIA agent can sneak in and assassinate whatever, because he's not bound by the U.S. laws. And so that's really problematic, is at the CIA. And I didn't agree with the rest of his presentation because he was trying to say how drones are more precise and stuff, but I did agree with that part of it.
No, before I forget, I want to make sure I get your name. Last name.
It's 1L, Coleen, and last name is Rowley.